the 21st chapter. After Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, and he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I am going fishing." They said to him, "We will go with you." They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, you have no fish, have you?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net to the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. The disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards off. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there, with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have just caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore full of large fish, 153 of them. And though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them and did the same with the fish. This was now the 3rd time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the 3rd time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he had said to him the 3rd time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belts and to go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this, he said to him, "Follow me." The Gospel of the Lord. You can be seated. What do you do after your life has completely changed? What do you do the day after? 2 weeks after? Your life is totally different. Where do you drink your morning coffee after all your furniture has been rearranged or replaced, and the spot you had worn in the table with your hot cup is not there? After our dog died, we were so disoriented in the mornings without a dog to feed and take out. What do people do in the morning without a dog? For weeks after Rita died, my daughter would yell over her shoulder on our way out the door to school, "Goodbye, Rita, we love you, we'll be back soon." Because it felt so horrible not to say it. Today, and in the weeks ahead, we practice as we do it. We practice what to do after life has totally changed and there's no going back. And maybe you think the changes in your life have been a little bit more subtle than the death and resurrection of Jesus. But truth be told, I think what is the hardest part, I imagine, about being a disciple, and really the hardest part of any of us when it comes to change, life changes. It's not the actual moment or event of the change, like the actual death and resurrection of Jesus. It isn't the decision that they made to jump out of their fishing boats 3 years before to follow Jesus. Long after the change has already happened, and they just now realize it. Who they are and how they assumed their life would go has already changed, and now they realize there's no going back. They changed long before. So now what? Now, there are no choices to be made about whether they change or not. Now they live into this resurrection of new life. And this, to me, is the hardest work. The adjusting to and the recognition of all the changes that have already happened, and how on earth will you live through that? The transformation of Saul to Paul might have happened in a moment, like a lightning struck him, or the quick break of a bow. But the life changing that will happen as now Paul lives out that change, that's huge. That's work. To live into the resurrection of his new life. And there's no going back. He has to live out and walk into what is ahead of him. For Peter, I get Peter. I get in that moment where he was asked, aren't you one of him? Aren't you one of Jesus' disciples? I get in this horrible moment of crisis and chaos, he just wanted to go back to his uncomplicated life before. He just wanted to be a fisherman again. So no, I'm not one of those. I'm not him. I get denying him. What a frightening moment where you just want to go back before everything was different. When I was thinking about going to seminary 8 years ago, an older pastor said this to me about making that decision. He said, say no as long as you can. Say no as many times as you can until you can't say no anymore. And then you might be ready. I get it. Peter wasn't ready. He had already been changed, but he was going to say no as long as he could until he could say no anymore to the change that had already happened. His old life had died the moment he followed Jesus, and it had changed even more, moment to moment and moment. There was no going back, regardless of denying him 3 times. But this moment of after the resurrection is different. Now Peter sees it. He has lived through the denying. There's no denying it anymore. And he says, yes. Yes. I recognize that I am no longer the same. I have been changed. I cannot deny it. I will walk into this resurrection of new life ahead of me, into an entirely different and unexpected direction that I probably would not have brought upon myself, right? If you are on social media or are friends with other church leaders, especially women of a certain generation like myself, you may have heard some very sad news that a prolific and prophetic Christian author named Rachel Held Evans has died. She died quite suddenly. She was 37 years old, and about a month and a half ago she had the flu. And she had an allergic reaction to the antibiotic, which caused seizures in her brain, and she was put into a medically induced coma for almost 3 weeks. And as they weaned her off of it, she died. She has a 3-year-old that's almost 1 year old, 37 years old. She grew out of a conservative evangelical background in the South and broke all of the molds, expanding and transforming interpretations of the Bible, called for the death and resurrection of the restrictive and exclusive structures of the church. And she changed lives. There are lots of people right now who are in a complete state of shock and wonder of what to do now that their life has been completely changed by the life and work of Rachel Held Evans, and now she isn't here in the flesh anymore. And we all have to live into this life that was already changed a long time ago into the resurrection of new life within us that was already happening. Glennon Doyle, another very influential writer these days, wrote the foreword for one of Rachel Held Evans' books called Searching for Sunday. This is the first sentence of the foreword she wrote. Whenever I want to scare myself, I consider what would happen to the world if Rachel Held Evans ever stopped writing. And now she has stopped writing. Except that right now, the internet is currently overflowing with her words. Overflowing. So if there was ever a time to read the words of Rachel Held Evans, now is the time. To hear interviews with her, now is the time. I myself have only read bits and pieces in the past and listened to some interviews of her. But in the last 36 hours or so, I have read lots. Because as those who have loved her and were changed by her work are trying to walk into this resurrection of new life, they are telling her story and reading her words over and over and over and over. This is one of the words, or series of words, if you will, that someone posted of hers today. Death and resurrection. It's the impossibility around which every other impossibility of the Christian faith orbits. Baptism declares that God is in the business of bringing dead things back to life. So if you want in on God's business, you better prepare to follow God to all the rock bottom, scorched earth, dead on arrival corners of this world, including those in your own heart. Because that's where God works. That's where God gardens. Baptism reminds us that there's no ladder to holiness to climb, no self-improvement plan to follow. It's just death and resurrection, over and over again, day after day, as God reaches down into our deepest graves and with the same power that raised Jesus from the dead, wrests us from our pride, our apathy, our fear, our prejudice, our anger, our hurt, and our despair. I know that all of you have experienced these deaths and resurrection. That's part of life. And maybe you are in the midst of saying no as many times as you can until you can't say no anymore to the change that has already happened in you. And that's okay. That is a completely faithful response. That is figuring out how to live into and walk through this resurrection of new life that you are in the midst of. I'm going to close with a poem by Rachel Held Evans that is a little bit long. And if you want it for some reason, I will give you this to make a copy of. It's called Faith. Like a child, you are wilder than I want. You are harder to predict than you once were, harder to control. Oh, they are illusions of control, I know, but I try. When I dress you up in fine, fashionable clothes so that you will look like the others. When I keep you at home to protect you from the world, when I try in vain to fight the pull of time so it won't change anything about you, about the way you laugh, the way you whisper, the way you play, all these little ways I know are yours alone. Faith, like a child, you never ask permission before growing, before stretching your arms out in the world like you own the place, before suddenly turning inside yourself, before surprising me or disappointing me or throwing me off with some new habit, some new quirk. Just when I think I know who you are, you evolve into something, someone new, and we have to get reacquainted with one another, like we're starting all over again. Why can't you just stay still? Why can't I rock you through a lullaby without you wiggling free? Faith, like a child, you are the object of my greatest hopes and fears. The thought of your death preoccupies my thoughts. You are far too fragile, far too dependent. It could happen, because I looked away for just a second, because I didn't notice that something was wrong, because I exposed you to an illness, because I entrusted you with the wrong person, because of circumstances beyond my control. I want to hold you tighter, but I no longer trust my arms to carry your weight. Faith, like a child, you frighten me. I am afraid to blow on your glowing embers for fear that my breath will spark a wildfire or snuff you out. I am afraid to hold you too tightly, to hold you too loosely, afraid of when you look too much like me, afraid of when you look like a stranger, like someone else's child. But faith, like a child, you are resilient. Like your sister, you bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things. You are braver than you ought to be, more trusting than is safe. Like a child, you make the most fanciful connections between things. Metaphors that only make sense between the two of us. Art that in its simplicity gets right to the essence of a bug, a sunrise, a family, a death. You are whimsy, you are curiosity, you are petulance, you are grace. You are a little hurricane of life and destruction and healing that upsets everything in your path. Faith, like a child, you ask too many questions. Faith, like a child, I love you unconditionally, and I vow to do my best to provide discipline when you need it, freedom when you need it, protection when you need it, and space when you need it, so that when the day comes, you will be ready to care